So that way, because I know with the change and the time and the date, it probably messed up a lot of people. So I recognize that not everyone is going to make it today. But I appreciate those of you that are here. Thank you for being here for our first lecture. This will be a almost monthly thing that we're going to be doing for now on. Obviously, with like holidays and that kind of thing, we'll skip November and December. There will be one in October, not including this one. But we will pick back up after the holidays in January. So, I did send out an email, not yesterday, but a couple days ago, just some kind of important affiliate updates. And I just kind of want to reiterate a few of those topics. As Michael kind of stated, we all are, we all do know someone that is suffering, or different communities are suffering. So some of our affiliates more than others. That being said, Surfing's Evolution and Preservation Foundation is interested again in providing assistance to the communities that were affected. Um, to qualify, all you need to do is send me an email, tell me kind of like what you are looking to do within your community or within your affiliate, and about, how much money would be helpful. I'm not saying that everything will be approved and the amount that you ask for will be approved, but I'm kind of sending them top level, and then we'll figure out from there what everyone gets or how far that can go. Also, that email included NOAA assistance for derelict vessels and just kind of a bunch of different stuff. Again, that's in that email, so please go ahead and take a look. There's a bunch of links for you. The annual conference is approaching very quickly, a little over a month away. That's in November. If you are planning on attending and you have not registered, please do so. I need to get as accurate numbers as possible for food count and all of those fun things. If you can't quite book your hotel, that's fine, but go ahead and register. And then the next or last thing is that solicitations, there is a due date of tomorrow. I know that, again, a lot of you were affected by the hurricane. So if that is the case, please just send Dana and I an email just asking for an extension. I know that she's going to be very understanding about that. So, if you are struggling with that deadline, please go ahead and send us a request to extend. And that shouldn't be too big of an issue. Um, Again, I know there's not a lot of people on today, so if there's an affiliate you talk to a lot regularly, tell them, hey, did you see the email? Hey, have you registered for the conference? Hey, did you know that Surfings is looking at giving, money for those worst hit? So talk to the affiliates that you're close with and share all this really great information. I think it's really important for us to make sure everyone knows that what's going on. Um, I think that's all I have. I'm going to introduce Michael just a wee bit, and then I'll let him kind of jump in. So again, a big thank you to Michael Adams. So he is with Phade, and his presentation is on the world's most sustainable disposable products. Uh, Michael's presentation will provide an overview of WinCup's journey and vision to create a sustainable food service packaging company, starting with biodegradable foam and continuing with the Phade line of PHA-based products. During his talk, he will identify what makes PHA and Phade so unique in the market and share how Phade is working to not only reduce plastic pollution, but also save our coral reefs. So, Michael, if you'd like to, you have the ability to share, by the way, your screen. I don't know if I mentioned that. I opened it up so you can share. Okay, perfect.
All good. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Sherry, for the introduction, and it's a pleasure to meet all of you. You know, I- we have a great affinity here at WinCup, the company that makes the brand of Fade straws here, for Keep Florida Beautiful and the affiliates. We had, I'll get into the story in a little bit, but we were working on some initiatives in St. Petersburg, and we're working to connect and make connections with a number of the leading NGOs in the area. And we had this vision of our company, getting involved in the community and working on beach cleanups as part of a way to give back to the state of Florida, which is a significant state for us. And we're running into a we're running into a lot of closed doors, so to speak, until we broke through with Pat and her team in Pinellas County, and she had an openness and a willingness to at least hear our story. And we presented basically what I'm going to take you all through today. And she challenged the heck out of us over a number of different meetings. But it developed into a great relationship, and it grew, and we were able to go into Miami-Dade County last year and do cleanups there out on Miami Beach, and then down to Key West. And then that led into this year and our involvement now across 7 communities throughout the state. So we have a vision, and we are so grateful and appreciative to the relationship that we have with the organization. I've got about 15 slides here to go through. It'll probably take me 20-25 minutes. I've got a few videos that are quick that I'll show during the process. And as Sherry indicated, my goal today is simply to educate a little bit more on WinCup, kind of our strategic direction and vision, inform you all a little bit more about Phade as a brand and a product line, PHA as well, and then just share some information. I will do my best to stop every 2 or 3 slides for questions, but ideally, if we could save those to the end, I think there's going to be plenty of time for that. So really do appreciate the opportunity. Thrilled and honored to be here with all of you today. And it's great meeting some folks in the communities and with the affiliates that we haven't yet been able to meet with. So, and it's just appreciative to be able to share our story. So with that, we'll just get moving. There we go. So a little bit about us. We are a 62-year-old company that manufactures, quite candidly, probably a lot of stuff that you all pick up on a weekly and monthly basis in your cleanups, right? We produce foam cups, lids, plastic straws, all of the things that kind of help the food service industry go about, serving consumers around the United States. We have 8 manufacturing facilities that you'll see here on the map of the U.S. One of those is actually located in Jacksonville, Florida, and we'll talk a lot more about that here in a moment. But we're a very traditional company. You can see that we service on the far right side of the screen a lot of the leading QSRs and restaurant chains around the U.S. At the bottom, those are organizations that are distributors. The food service industry is driven through selling products to distributors. Those distributors then sell to end users in the most common. And even when you're dealing with a very large chain, a Dunkin' or a McDonald's or a Wendy's, where your relationship may be directly with that restaurant chain, they're still going to be pulling product through their distributor and distributor networks as they move forward. Some of the innovation for our company has enabled us to open up a lot of interesting and new channels and being able to partner with leaders in unique spaces. One of those has been in the sports industry and partnering with the facilities around teams from the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NBA, and so forth. And so you kind of see that on the left side of the chart. WinCup's journey started to change in the year 2010. We were really looking at the industry and where companies like ours needed to be moving, and a lot of our competitors were making bets on recycling and recyclability and getting behind recycling infrastructure, and appropriately so, and others were going in other ways and other directions. And we looked at the world and said that our focus needs to be on end of life. And given that we are, headquartered here in Metro Atlanta, we wanted to start working on solutions that would actually bring end of life into play for the products that we manufacture. So we started working with Georgia Tech, and over a 4 to 5 year period, we developed a technology that accelerates the biodegradation of EPS foam products in landfills, And this technology, when tested, showed that a typical foam cup, a styrofoam cup in a landfill, would go from taking 50 to 100 years to biodegrade in the landfill down to 4 years. And so we launched that product line. It's called Vio. And that started us on our journey. Certainly, it's not a certified technology. It does not meet the time standard for any certification. We follow the green guidelines very carefully in terms of making sure that we clearly denote the amount of time it takes. But that started us on our journey. And in 2017, a video appeared on YouTube of a sea turtle horrifically suffering from a plastic straw embedded in its nose. And that video in 2017, it actually came out in 2015, resurfaced in 2017, and that's when it went viral. And it really sparked a change in our industry. And a number of our customers came to us and said, what are you going to be doing about this? What are you going to be doing? This is a real problem. And obviously, the fact that it took place in a marine environment shows that it's not just a plastic pollution problem in general, but it's a marine plastic pollution problem that we're dealing with. And we looked at a number of options and a number of technologies. And we were introduced to a small company here in Georgia called Danimer Scientific. And they introduced us to PHA. And we started working with the material, nearly burnt our beloved plant in Jacksonville, Florida down, starting to work with this material. But after 28 trials, we were able to figure out how to produce a drinking straw out of PHA. And the rest is kind of history. In 2020, in the middle of the pandemic, we launched the Phade brand. And in just under 4 years, we've sold over 2 billion of the straws. And as we like to say, instead of saying we've sold them, we'd like to say that we've removed 2 billion traditional plastic straws from this planet. And I'll get to some statistics here in a minute. And Phade and PHA has helped us with our resolve that we want to be, by 2030, the only manufacturer of food service-based packaging products that are 100% sustainable. That every product we produce has a story that will take it and return it ultimately to Earth in a very quick period of time. So that's a little bit about us as a background. You all know and live this probably daily, but the world is truly thirsting for a solution to this growing problem. If you look at any forecast into the future, you don't see one that shows plastic usage declining. As I like to say, every chart that shows plastic usage into the future points up and to the right. And it's a dramatic problem, and it's significant. There are a number of solutions that have been in place since the 70s: reduce, reuse, recycle. We support fully all of them. Horrifically, if you, a few years ago, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and that's the graphic kind of up and to the right, which is designed to show the flow of plastic waste, in the, across the United States minimally. Depending on the time, a few years back, you would have found that probably 7 to 10% of all recyclable plastics are actually being recycled. In 2022, a study came out and it actually showed that in the United States, only 5% of recyclable plastics are actually going into that stream. And while all of us as individuals are trying to reduce the amount of plastics we use and are leaning on reusable products, the 3 R's are simply not handling the problem. And our belief here is that the world needs a 4th R. And in our case, the 4th R is replace. We need materials and technologies where we can actually replace traditional fossil fuel-based plastics with biopolymer-based technologies so that you can use the product and have it return to Earth in a quick amount of time. So that while proliferation may look like this, if that's up and to the right to you all, the amount of plastics on our planet can start to plateau and hopefully start to drop. So that's a lot about why we're doing that. So what is PHA, and why does it work so well? So PHA stands for polyhydroxyalkoenate. We will do a quiz. Everyone will have to go around at the end of the presentation and say that 10 times. I'm just kidding. Took me about 6 months to be able to say it to where it rolls off my tongue. So more to come from that. But easily known as PHA. PHA is actually a broad family of a number of different, so there's 3 or 4 PHAs that fall under the family of PHA. but they are fully sustainable depending on the source of material that generates the PHA. In our case, we actually use the PHA form of PHA. There's also PHBH, there's PHB, those are the three primary and most well known. But polyhydroxyalkyl-CoA is a fully sustainable biopolymer derived, in our case, from the fermentation of canola oil. You can also get it from the fermentation of soy oil from soybeans. In essence, you take in our case, canola oil, you feed it to bacteria. The bacteria consume it. The energy reserves that they derive from consuming the canola are extruded or extracted from them via centrifuge. And voila, there is your PHA. Naturally occurring, been on the planet a little over 1 billion years, but it took a scientist at Procter & Gamble about 20 years ago to find it and understand it. And what's so powerful about it is, again, it is naturally occurring. So when you heat it, melt it, and form it into a straw, a lid, a piece of cutlery, it works and looks and acts just like traditional plastic. But because it's naturally derived from bacteria, when you put it back in front of bacteria as an energy source, the bacteria consume it, which enhances and obviously drives the full circle of biodegradation and so forth. Comes from, in our case, I mentioned canola oil. Canola is a very interesting crop. It's a secondary crop in the northern U.S. So traditionally what happens is farmers will go in and plant a core crop, whether it's corn, soybeans, wheat, whatever it may be in the northern U.S. But when they harvest, they then have a few months through the winter. And in this case, canola and rapeseed plants are predominantly winter-based crops. So they plant, they grow very quickly, they're able to harvest, and then bring those to fruition and then go back to their normal crop rotations as they enter into the spring and summer. So it's a very quick growing crop. It's a very easy growing crop. And the harvest is usually, it doesn't take away from the production of food-based components. So again, naturally occurring from canola oil and from the fermentation of canola oil, derived naturally from the bacteria itself, and extruded and formed in and then put back in front of said bacteria. They consume it and return it to Earth very quickly. When we launched Phade, we realized that, and we saw how good the product was and how good this biopolymer was in terms of its properties for usage as well as its biodegradable capabilities. We realized that it was going to be very, very critical to take a technology like this and make sure that it was fully certified. We acknowledge in our industry, very sadly, that there is a lot of greenwashing that takes place. And our belief very handily is that there's a simple answer to greenwashing, which is just that as long as businesses require their products they use to be fully certified and hold us as manufacturers accountable for obtaining the testing and certification, the world becomes a much better place. So as you can see in the lower left-hand corner, we have gone through the certification. Our products have been certified as home and industrially compostable. The resins used to make our material have been certified as biodegradable, marine biodegradable and soil biodegradable. I will note that there are no organizations on the planet that will certify a drinking straw, a plastic lid, or any of those types of items, whether they are marine biodegradable or not. There are no organizations that will certify them. They don't want to entice the behavior of people disposing of these items into a marine environment or into farm soil and agricultural environments. But rest assured, as you'll see in a few minutes, the resin that is used to make our product is fully certified as marine biodegradable. And you can see some of the certifications. TÜV Austria is one of the leading certification bodies across the United States or across the world in terms of home compostability, industrial compostability. Obviously, BPI here in the United States, and then we have also certifications through the CMA, the Compost Manufacturing Alliance, and so forth. So I'm going to pause there for any questions you may have. Got like I said, about 10 more slides to go, and now we get into some of the fun stuff. Any questions?
Hi, this is Lynn Wilder with Keep Franklin County Beautiful. And you said that the polymer biodegrades, I guess with bacteria. Is that both aerobic and anaerobic? So
Yes,
both in a landfill and out just in the general environment.
correct. So um, it obviously goes away much faster in an
Okay.
open landfill aerobically, but even in anaerobic conditions, there are certain strains of bacteria that exist in anaerobic conditions. It does slow down the process,
Right.
but yes, we do biodegrade even in closed cell landfill type conditions or other
Okay.
conditions where there's not oxygen.
And are there any emissions from that process?
Well, there's always, so biodegradation always creates emission, right? If it's aerobic in nature, it will produce CO2, water, and biomass. If
Okay.
it's anaerobic, the CO2, it's the same process, but the CO2 is methane. And so, any biodegradation that takes place will always have those offputs. You can't biodegrade and not have either methane or CO2 as a byproduct of that,
Okay.
and so forth. So
Okay. Thank
absolutely.
you.
No, you're welcome. It's a great question. Any others? Okay, we'll keep rolling then. So, yeah, proof is in the pudding. These are just a slide showing the photographic steps in our home composting certification that we obtained. The testing was done via OWS, Organic Waste Systems, out of Belgium. They're the leading lab for both TÜV and BPI. And so you can see the process of how our straws go through home composting at the labs at OWS. So you see the results in the upper left-hand corner. That's the first week. After 4 weeks, they go into the inoculum and pull out the components. And so you can see the breakdown. That's the upper right-hand corner. After 8 weeks, you can see the bottom left-hand corner. And then at 9 weeks, our material is completely gone. And so as we saw this and we saw the results of this, as well as the industrial composting testing that we'd done, and even and we put our straws into marine testing just to have the data so that we knew how we would perform. We got very, very, very excited about how quickly this would go away. And so in 2021, we actually said, it would behoove us to show the world the power of this capability. And so we decided to embark on creating a time-lapse video of our straw breaking down in a marine environment. And versus telling you about it, I thought I would just take a moment and show you. So let's play that for you very quickly. So what do y'all think? we still to this day, that video is probably the best way we can sell Phade to our customers, and the impact is pretty significant. So anyway,
Definitely a huge difference.
we saw that, and we knew how we had performed in OWS testing. We weren't sure where this time-lapse video would go, and when we saw the results, we were extremely excited and so forth. As part of the testing, as I'd mentioned, we put our straws into testing. We didn't have to. We knew that there would be no one who would take the results and certify our straws as marine biodegradable. Again, it's a values-based equation and situation from tube, and we understand where it comes from. But as we had done the actual testing work, we took the water from the biodegradation testing, from the marine testing, and we actually ran it through a couple of additional tests that weren't required, but we wanted it for our own edification. So we ran 2 spectroscopy tests. Spectroscopy are designed to ultimately find out, in this case, if there were any microplastics or any other elements that were left in the remaining water after the biodegradation and the disintegration took place. So the first part of that is what they call Raman spectroscopy. You take the water that remains and you do a slow boil down, and what is left are the mineral solids or any solids that would exist once the water is completely gone. And we take all of those particles and you test, you visually inspect them. So you're inspecting the outside of the particles. And when we looked at that, what we found is that not only was there no PHA left, there was no anything left other than organic minerals that were naturally found in salt water. The number one ingredient was salt that we found. Well, we thought, well, that's great to look on the outside, but there could be something hiding on the inside of those nuggets. So that's where the NMR spectroscopy comes in. You take those solids that are remaining and you mix them in chloroform to basically create a liquid solution. And you put that under a high-powered microscope. And then looking at that came back and showed that there were no microplastics, there were no organic or inorganic materials from the breakdown of our straw in the water. Everything that was remaining in that solution was naturally occurring in the seawater from the North Sea, which is where OWS gathers their water to do the testing. So again, we were pretty excited about those results. Any questions? Okay, we've got a few more slides. So last March, we were introduced to this concept of the unintended yet positive consequences from innovation. We received a call from an entrepreneur, a former SpaceX literal rocket scientist down in Broward County. And he had been working with some scientists at Nova Southeastern University. For those in Southeastern Florida, probably across the state, the dredging of Port Everglades has been a project on the books since the late 1990s. And it is being closely led by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and overseen by NOAA. And one of the most critical hurdles to clear in that project is the successful transplantation of anywhere from 1.5 to 6 million coral out of the port out into the Atlantic basin. So a number of teams across Southeast Florida and across the state had been working on solutions to try to protect transplanted coral from parrotfish predation. Parrotfish, who normally exist wonderfully with coral and the coral reef structures off the Atlantic coast of Florida, have been found to be very aggressive towards transplanted coral. So much so that typically the survival rates of unprotected coral when transplanted out to the basin is less than 40%. It's 35 to 40% survival rate. So 60 to 65% of the coral that gets transplanted ends up being destroyed or killed. So this entrepreneur reaches out to us in March of 23 and basically says, we're working on a project that we're using your straws and we wanted to know if you'd like to get involved. And so we had a couple conversations and we said, basically, oh, heck yeah, we want to get involved and so forth. So a little bit more about this. The nuts and bolts of this. So the problem I've already somewhat defined, right? The parrotfish predation is a significant problem when transplanting coral, especially off the Atlantic basin and the southeastern shores in Broward and Miami-Dade County. Interestingly enough, parrotfish predation is not as significant a problem down in Monroe County and the Keys, but it is very much a problem for this, and ultimately for this project. And the theory and the hypothesis, a number of different things have been created. Tents to cover the transplanted coral, cages, a number of different solutions, and none of them had really worked. I won't go into it, but the theory was that if we could create a barrier using a biodegradable material that would return to Earth in 2 to 3 months, that would be long enough time for the parrotfish to see the transplanted coral, adapt to the transplanted coral, but yet be kept away from the coral so that the coral could start to grow and survive, and that ultimately, in theory, the parrotfish would leave alone once the barrier comes to, basically returns to Earth. And so what you can see is on the right is what we call the Phade coral fort. That is an example of some testing that was done in May as part of a master's thesis project. If you look at the two photos on the far right of the slide, and it's hard to see here, but basically that is the same test cell. The top photo was taken on May 7th of 2023. The bottom was taken on June 7th of 2023. And what you'll notice if you look closely is on the top photo, you can see, again, it's a straight down shot, so it's hard to see, but there's a ring of our straws. The bottom photo, all you see is the hole. So our straws had completely biodegraded in just 30 days. This caused a bit of a problem. The Reef Fortified guys came back to us and said, this is phenomenal, but we need something that goes away a little more slowly. Can you help us with a solution there? And we did, and I'll show you that here in just a second. But we received in the market some tremendous support, a lot of stories and articles about this, and a lot of the results. As a matter of fact, one of the best stories was actually was a story done nationally on CBS News back in May, and of course, I've got a video for that too.
Scientists are grasping at straws, literally, to save our declining coral reefs. It's a new effort to boost survival rates and give fish something they love to eat. Our Christian Benavides has more.
Straws are probably not what comes to mind when it comes to saving the environment, but these biodegradable drinking straws could be the key to restoring coral reefs.
So this is really the first biodegradable option that emerged.
Kurt Dodson and Kyle Pisano of Reef Fortified developed the Coral Fort, a small biodegradable cage that prevents lab-grown coral from becoming fish food when it's moved to the ocean.
It degrades in the marine environment in exactly the target time it takes for the parrotfish to lose interest in the transplanted coral. Divers can go down, clear a spot for the little fort, and they adhere to the reef.
The straws are made from fermented canola oil, known as PHA. Manufacturer WinCup says the use of its product to rebuild reefs is a happy accident.
We were working awfully hard to just create a much better product. We had no idea it was going to be used to save baby coral in the ocean.
Researchers say they've already planted nearly 200 coral forts along this reef near the Broward County coast. And they say it's led to better survival rates for the nursery-grown coral.
We more than doubled the survivorship of our transplants out onto the ocean to above 90%.
Checking on specimens 1 year later, the straws are long dissolved, and marine biologists say it's been a success. They hope to plant more coral forts elsewhere in South Florida. Scientists race to save the state's fragile coral reefs. Christian Benavides, CBS News, Fort Lauderdale.
So that's something we were very excited to be working with the Reef Fortified team on. And anyway, just to show everyone, if you can see on my camera here is actually an example. There are 3 sizes of the coral fort. You know what, I'll stop sharing for a second. It'll make it maybe a little bit easier. So there's 3 sizes of the coral fort. This is the small one. This, again, it uses our boba straw. This one cut down half to half the length of our normal, the normal size of the straw. The design of the limestone base is such that each hole is tapered. PHA in water will actually absorb a small amount of water that causes a swelling. So the divers, place the coral, they glue it to the limestone base. They ply the straws in that tank that you saw on the boat, but it's still in water. They do all of this. They apply the straws. The straws start to slightly swell, and then you take it down and adhere it. And as such, that process enables that these straws stay in place. We've tested in currents, very strong currents, and they stay in place to protect the coral in the process. It's interesting. The data says 95% survival. When we switched from the 7 3/4 inch straw to the boba straw, survival rate actually went up to 100%. But when you look at all of the data, you had some of those early on that weren't surviving. But something that we're incredibly proud of, and had no idea whatsoever that this would become, an opportunity for us to get involved with. So let me start sharing again. I've got 2 more slides, and then I will turn it over to you all for questions and any other discussion we want to have. Again, this whole idea, this whole solution was covered. It was covered by the AP, CBS News. We're really excited about where it's going. We have presented to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and to NOAA, who the teams that are actually overseeing this project. We have our president and CEO are actually in the Keys today. In about an hour, there's a presentation to Mote Marine. Mote Marine is looking at this for the transplantation of seagrasses, of protection of mangroves and planting mangroves. They look at this device as not only something that can help the reef structures, but also a number of different solutions and what have you. We've been in business 4 years. In March of 23, we actually sold our 1 billionth straw. In June of 2024, we sold our 2 billionth straw. So certainly things are growing and advancing. In 2023, we determined that 1 billion straws stacked end to end would basically get you halfway to the moon. It was about 135,000 miles in length. So we were thrilled to say by June of 2024, we've reached the moon in terms of the number of straws stacked end to end. And we project that by December of this year, we will actually sold our 3 billionth straw. Another way to look at that, 2 billion straws is the equivalent to 16 times around the Earth at the equator. Or if school buses are your thing, it's the equivalent of 760 yellow school buses packed full of straws. So if you think of it that way, 760 full school buses of plastic straws have been eliminated and removed from the planet. And finally, straws, we did not intend to work with this material just to create a brand of straws. We wanted to use the material to create a brand of a family of products. Amazingly, most people don't even recognize or realize that paper cups are actually lined with polyethylene. So you take something that is so wonderfully sustainable on the outside, but you basically ruin it by coating it with plastic on the inside so that you can keep the liquid on the inside. We are in the process of launching Phade Paper Cup. It's the first and only cup lined with PHA. I'll show you one closing video here in just a second to give you an idea of what that really means. And we're also in the process of launching Phade Cutlery. That is injection molded cutlery made from the same exact material as our straws. We are going through the testing now. Unfortunately, because of how thick a piece of disposable cutlery is, we won't be able to make any kind of marine claim. The time is just going to take too long, but we're already in testing and highly confident that we will achieve home and industrial certifications on both of those items. So I close with this. Yes, I wouldn't be me if I didn't have another video for you. So just to kind of highlight the differences in paper cups, and that not all cups are the same. There's no music. This is a rough, but you can see a traditional paper cup on the left and the Phade paper cup on the right. I'll pause very quickly. One of the main reasons.
Michael, you're not sharing with us. We can't see what you're seeing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I just
Uh,
didn't want you to be on your own.
I apologize.
No, it's okay. Maybe
So
start it over.
I'll start back over here because I think it's really important. You'll note that our paper cups, the lining is actually colored. We did that for a number of reasons. As I mentioned, most consumers don't even realize that a paper cup is actually lined. So they naturally think it's very, very good, which is great. We like to say that by lining it with PHA, we're going to enable a paper cup to be and do what a paper cup should be able to do. We also shaded it blue because of our branding, but we putting it all together, we realized that there's significant power in coloring the liner, especially if bacteria are going to consume it. So notice after about 10 seconds what happens to the inside of the Phade cup. And I'll start this again really quickly. So if you notice now, you can see a little bit of blue. Where it's under the sand, the material still exists, but now the inside of the cup is white, and that's not because the dye went away. That's because the PHA has been consumed by bacteria. So now you have nothing more than a true paper cup. That's nothing more than paper. The fish here were the same fish we used. We had somebody at the lab in New Jersey who did the time lapse take their fish home. We were worried that they were going to pass moving them from one saltwater tank to another. They didn't. And then we brought them back out of that tank and put them in here for this testing. So these fish have experienced some straws going away and now cups going away. The fish were very territorial. They loved having the cups as homes. They were not happy with us when the Phade cup started going away. In real time, they would actually swarm over the cup and either gather sand and spit it onto the cup to try to save it, or would dust up sand over the top of it to try to keep it. That cup went away in 124 days in a marine environment. The other cup, as you can see, a funny story about the other cup here, and I'll pause. This other cup, after the test was done, the lab actually took the cup, picked it up very carefully, poured the water into the tank, set it on a counter, grabbed a Phade cup, filled it with water, poured it into that cup, and that cup held that water for 3 days, after which it didn't start leaking. They just said it's 3 days and it's still holding water, and they poured it out. So there's also a photo they took where the paper bottom of that cup had completely gone away, but it was still able to hold water because of the 2 layers of plastic coating the piece of paper on the bottom of the cup. So anyway, that is my presentation for today. I have, a number of our certification slides. If any of you want to see those, I can answer any questions. It's gone a little bit long, but I appreciate it greatly. Happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Well, this is Lynn Wilder again. I'm a big fan of this. I've got some questions. We have, I don't know if you're familiar with Apalachicola area and that part of the coast.
Yes.
We have a lot of restoration programs going on now, like seagrass. We're trying to restore coastal resiliency. So I guess our highways don't get washed away when we get storm surge. It's definitely, our land is going away. But we have a lot of programs like that. I'm, well connected with that group. It's one of the research reserves. If you can foresee any reason to have a contact with them or come have a conversation. And I'm one of my things. We're a fairly new group as far as an affiliate goes, and one of my things is we're very tourist oriented here, although there's beautiful, ecotourism I could see would be a good thing. Anyway, our restaurants and the public in general are plastic consumers. We have single use bags. There's a lot of the foam containers. And we're not real litter conscious here. Because we're an old fishing town, there's a lot of old generational, things that are still, the ocean's big enough. We can throw anything we want to in it. Anyway, we do have some companies, some bars, some restaurants that are really interested in trying to use things that do biodegrade. And they can see it as a selling point. It's also a good thing coming to our restaurant and take this carry out, and it's, if you drop it by mistake and it goes into the environment, it's not going to be a bad thing necessarily. Anyway, I'm trying to get maybe a group of them pulled together to talk about it. I can't figure out, just the research I've done, and that's limited. They've asked me, well, what should we use? And really, that's a really hard question to answer, because these, biodegradable cups, the plastic, we don't recycle here. I'm trying to get that started, but the plastic recycling is really difficult, because if you send some of these biodegradables into a regular plastic waste stream, it destroys that whole waste stream. So it's too complicated for us. And I think plastic would be the last thing we can tackle. Anyway, that's a long way of saying, I don't know how open you are to coming out and talking to groups here, or to even our county commissioners, something like that, because I can see this. Once they find out about it, unless it's really cost prohibitive, and we maybe can help start something with that too, they're really receptive. It's just that, they don't know anything different.
Right. It's a confusing marketplace, and you hit on a number of the different components that make it so confusing, from I don't know what to buy to I don't know what to do. And it's incredibly challenging. What I will say is we would be honored in any way, shape, or form. And Lynn, I will work to get your contact information, and we can talk offline. If there's anything that we can do, we would love to come down and talk to, a group of restaurants. We would love to talk to the city or county. Nothing more than to share. We've worked over the past few years with Fort Myers Beach. We've worked with Key West. Most recently, we actually did some very quick and fast work with the community of Coconut Creek down in Broward County. We know and realize that the communities are taking action in terms of creating legislation at the community level to address these problems. And our goal is to help support and provide any knowledge that we can, any information that we can. Our only ask is, don't create legislation that limits innovation and new technology. PHA wasn't even around when a lot of the Florida communities started creating their legislation. And so unwinding some of that once it's in place is always more challenging. So anyway, anything we can do. I will share that we do have a healthy relationship, and a healthy is a positive. Sometimes that word sounds like it's not. We have a very good relationship with the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association. One of my goals is to continue to develop our relationship with the Keep Florida Beautiful affiliates and organization, and bring the FRLA in on all of this, because Lynn, it's probably in Florida that one of the number one areas of pollution problems is through the restaurant side of things. And the more we can connect Keep Florida Beautiful with the FRLA in joint programs, I think the better off the state will be. So just some of my thoughts, but happily I'll reach out to you. I'll get from Sherry your contact information if we can help.
We've got a big sea turtle program here too, so that would be really cool if you could somehow wind your way into that with us too.
We would love to. Trust me. We think it's critical for people to realize that the straw caused the problem, and now straws can actually be here to help solve the problem. So we're happy in any way, shape, or form. So we'll chat.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'll make sure to connect you guys after this. Does anyone else have any questions for Michael while we have him?
Oh, sorry.
I've got one more.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I promise I won't do this on every call.
you're fine, Lynn. No worries.
Can you do this with fishing line?
Actually, I believe it has been done. We are not in that market, but I believe
Okay.
it has been done, and that would be certified by TÜV because fishing line is
Wow.
meant to be, as well as fishing nets. I do know they've some organization years ago. I say years ago, only a few years back, but some organization was using PHA to actually develop crab traps that would
Oh, wow.
create a release so that if other species got into the trap, normally that's a death sentence. But there's a portion of the trap that was made out of PHA that would biodegrade. So if a fish got into the trap, it could actually swim back out of the trap. It's a pretty amazing material.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I saw Madison and Lazaro looked like they came on. I don't know if they had questions or not.
Oh, yeah.
Madison?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. I'm just we've actually been doing a lot of research in the Orlando area about the cost of different like straws specifically, and like working with restaurant stores and distributors and stuff. And a huge issue that we're running into, of course, is that like a traditional petroleum-based plastic straw is like a 0.6 of a cent in cost, and other materials are, even if they are very affordable or very environmentally friendly, are just not. We just can't compete with like a box of a bazillion straws for $13. I was wondering what if we had one of our small businesses that was going to go ahead and switch to Phade, like what they could reasonably expect to pay per unit. I'm sure it's different, of course, depending on how much they purchase, and if we're going like, from a wholesale kind of bulk perspective through you all, what reasonably could they expect to pay per unit?
No, it's a great question. So right now in the market, a traditional polypropylene based straw, you hit it on the head. It's about 0.6 of a cent per straw. Right now, the same straw, 7 3/4-inch Phade straw, is at about 1.6 cents. So it's about a 3x difference in terms of pricing, versus a polypropylene straw. When we launched, it was 4x. It came down to about 2x. We, on our side of things, really need to see PHA scale. The manufacturers are working very hard to add capacity, which will, simple supply and demand. As there's more quantity of PHA, the prices will come down, and that will make it more affordable. So that is the challenge. As I tell friends of mine who have the same question, and again, there's no spiciness in my answer, but I tell them all the time, it's why you can't buy a Tesla for Toyota Corolla prices. No offense to either Tesla owners on the call or Corolla owners on the call. They're both great cars, but you see the point. And so what we really need to do is see it scale, but we would be happy to work with folks. If they want to order from us on our website directly, they can contact us there, kind of tell us their story, and we can set up discounts that we can offer directly if they're small and order in small quantities. That's what our website and buying from us at fadeproducts.com will do. If they want to pull from distributors, we can certainly work in connecting them with distributors in the area, and we can do everything we can to try to keep the price down as best we can. And we try to do that. We're pretty conscious of making sure the world's better off if we have products like this in the market, and we're willing to trade a little bit of profitability to make sure that there's more Phade straws in the marketplace. So anything we can do with any of your constituents, again, Sherry knows how to find me, and hopefully all of you will know how to find me very soon. And so anything we can do to help any of your markets with restaurants and or local businesses that want to make a move to Phade, please don't hesitate to reach out to us and help us connect with those folks. We'd be happy to help.
Now, Michael, I have a question. So, kind of following into like getting up, the number of organizations and companies that are using Phade products. Are there any, because WinCup works with so many large corporations, are there any of those corporations that are looking to make that switch, any of the larger ones who are interested in kind of, switching over
Yeah,
to
no,
the side?
it's a great question. I know when I joined a month after the brand was launched, and I know that when I got here, the plan was that if you put something like this out there, the Duncans of the world, the McDonald's of the world, they'll jump right at it. And that was the business model. And we were spoiled right out of the gate. Duncan was one of our very first customers, at least in the environmentally sensitive areas, right? It's a term we use for the states and or locations that, the geographies that have laws on the books that are designed to help curb plastic pollution problems. So we were spoiled right out of the gate. And what ended up happening was none of that happened. We built this business on what we call, and we say it very respectfully, up and down the street business. The mom and pop restaurants, bars, and in large and small towns all throughout the United States. And those were the folks who realized in their market, they realized two things. A, I need something to make me look different than the bigger folks. And B, sustainability as an element of my brand's position in the market has never caused anybody. You can go to a biker bar, and if they use sustainable products, it doesn't hurt their position as a biker bar. I'm using that as an example, right? But most people realize that, and they realize that sustainability was a path to differentiation for their restaurant, and they built communities of loyal customers during the pandemic because of that. And one of the turning points, people ask me all the time, in our opinion, what was the turning point in terms of this kind of sustainability push and movement? And it's, in our belief, it was COVID and all of us staying at home and all of us doing a lot of carry out and all of us staring at piles of plastic in our homes and going, this is a problem, I think. And it's really caught on. And, the millennial generation has really embraced this. And it's trickled down to Gen Z, and it's pushed up to us Gen Xers as well, and the boomers. So anyway, it was for us. So I'm dragging my feet. I'm not meaning to. So for us, we built this business on small restaurants and chains that wanted to create a difference and wanted to be different from their competitors. And now you're seeing the curve. And I can tell you that without naming names, 7 of the 10 largest restaurant chains in the US are either working with PHA or they're exploring sustainable options in a lot of their food service packaging. So that's really what's needed, because that will create, to my earlier answer, the scale that you need for PHA. And there's other technologies too that aren't quite as good, we believe, as PHA, but they're certainly beneficial to the environment.
That's great.
So it's starting to happen. You're starting to see it. And it will continue, I believe.
That's great. Did anyone else have any questions? I know we're a little over on time, but I'm sure Michael can give us like 5 more minutes if anyone else has a question.
I have the next hour open.
Oh, great. No? Okay, great. So I just want to give Michael a round of applause quietly. Thank you so much for having or for being here. We really appreciate it. I know a lot of our affiliates are familiar with you, but a lot of our affiliates aren't familiar with you. And so this was a really great opportunity for people to kind of get to know your company and you as a person. Like I said, this is recorded, so I'm going to send out an email because I know not everyone could join even though they wanted to. Pat actually texted me while we're on this and said, please tell Michael I'm so sorry I couldn't make it. So
she's on the out. She's out of here.
She's out of here. So
I could say that when she's not on the call. She'll
beat you otherwise.
She'd kick me in the head if otherwise. That's right. We don't
Um,
mess with that.
so I'll send out this recording and I'll include Michael's contact information. So if anyone wants to get a hold of him specifically, you can make that connection. But again, Michael, we really appreciate your continued support and Fade's continued support of our affiliates. And we really look forward to continuing this relationship and working with you in the future. So thank you for your time.
You're very welcome, and thank you all for the work you do, and for being open-minded to a company like ours. I meant what I said when I opened up. Pat represented all of you back last year, and she lived the spirit of what Keep America Beautiful was all about, which was getting with companies that may have been problem companies in the past, and trying to find common ground to work from and move forward with. And that was the attitude and approach she took. And I see that every day in every affiliate that I'm fortunate enough to meet with. And so thank you for the opportunity. It was great to meet all of you and so many of you that I haven't met yet. And, do know we're here to help in any way, shape, or form that we can. I'll close with a phrase that I use all the time, which is, especially in Florida, Phade was developed and made in Jacksonville. We like to say Phade was, it's made in Florida for Florida. And, while it helps benefit the entire US, it really hits close to home. And, and certainly we're proud as heck of the fact that it was created and produced in our Jacksonville facility. So Florida continues to be a critical state for us, and we're thrilled to be partners with you all.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Michael. And thank you everyone for being here today. If you have any ideas for future presentations, please feel free to send me an email if there's anything you're interested in or you have a great contact. But next month, I'll send out a reminder probably next week or maybe tomorrow for this month's, excuse me, I keep saying next month, for October's lecture, which will be with TerraCycle. So thank you all for being here. I hope you have a wonderful day, and reach out to me if you guys need anything. Thank you again, Michael. You have a wonderful day as well.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.